Welcome to the Brand Champions Mixtape, a compilation of our favourite marketing subjects in a short, break-sized podcast.
Welcome to, what are we on? Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Smashing through it. How's your week been, Fee?
It's been busy to be back, but good busy. Lots of positive stuff happening, which is good.
Good to have a nice week off and then back to it. So we're raring to go.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 things to talk about today, as always.
We are talking rainbow washing, we are talking MADFest, and we are talking Paralympics with the Friday ad today. So the question we posed when we talked about this was, companies benefit more by not posting about Pride during Pride Month. Let's start by looking at some of the stats on this. So there's definitely lots for, there's lots against. So 83% of millennials are more engaged when they think their company fosters an inclusive culture. We'll all agree with that.
Yep.
In a survey participated in by the LGBTQIA+ community, there was a 50-50 on whether a company or a brand should be posting about Pride Month, which is why we started saying we should talk about this. With 64% believing companies' efforts are mostly gestures rather than a meaningful commitment to DE&I, and 29% believe that rainbow washing is the worst mistake a company can make to celebrate Pride. So there's a lot of stats in there. They're good stats. I think we've talked about this ourselves, haven't we? When do we talk about it? Is it right? Is something obviously we're hugely passionate about all year round, and we don't want it to be like we're just jumping on the bandwagon for 1 month only. Yeah. So I can see positives for doing it because it's right to be talking about it. But equally, I can see what people are saying, where they're saying you're just ticking a box. So I'm interested in your view, Kerry.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's close to my heart. I'm a member of the queer community, and you're right, you know, for the past sort of 2 or 3 years we've spoken about when's right, but actually I think the answer is it's the same as any inclusivity sector, like all the time is the right time.
Yeah.
And I think there's some really great examples of when brands get it right, brands get it wrong. I'm so on the fence about Pride Month. I am there for what Pride Month stands for, you know, and there is a reason for Pride. And I often have these conversations of why do you still need to have a Pride, and all that sort of stuff. But it frustrates me that people just change their logos and think that's enough. So I think we've had some really big examples over the past year. For not getting it right, for definitely, you've got Budweiser, who obviously had that massive backlash with their transgender influencer campaign with Dylan Mulvaney. You know, people said they stopped buying Bud forever, basically. And we all know from stats and everything that when people say they're going to do that, they don't really. It's like a 2-week boycott and then everyone forgets about it. So I think they got it completely wrong. But the reason they got it wrong is when people said you shouldn't be doing this, they went, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And they backed out of it.
Right.
So what I've been looking at actually in preparation for this is whether they've been changing their logo. So I had a quick look on their website and they haven't, because I was like, well, you can't go and change your logo in June when you're not standing by one of your biggest advertising campaigns, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's quite interesting that, you know, they've obviously learned from that and aren't stepping into the Pride space this month.
Have you got an example of someone doing it really well? Do you think there are brands that are getting it right out there?
It's always the same word that comes up. So we're talking about authenticity, right? Yeah. So, you know, we spoke about it a lot at our International Women's Day event, Champion Conversations. I've seen that at the Creative Equals event as well.
Yeah.
So there's some good people that do it well. And the one that I would shout out is Celebrity Cruises for me. And we obviously work with them quite closely anyway. But I think they do it well because they do it all year. But they do it in a way that is authentic. So they've got a open source image collection that is totally inclusive. And anyone from the travel industry can use those images, is what they've said. So that's great. They sponsor big events. they give money. They donate, that's the word.
Yeah.
So they donate to the right people as well, all throughout the year, which I think gives them the right to, in June, go, we're here for you guys. And I think that's great. I think there's some good examples of people that get it wrong, people that get it right. But I think it
doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing, right? It can be integrated. Like we've talked a lot about in brochures, you know, it should be an integrated part of the photography that you're using. You know, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. And I think, as we always talk about when we talk about diversity, you're not expecting a kind of over, you're just expecting a fair share. And that's the thing that I think celebrity do really well.
They do. It's just inclusive. Like I think I said it at our event, like just because I'm gay doesn't mean I want a big gay campaign to go on holiday with other gay people. I just want to go on holiday, but I'd like to see myself represented in that imagery. They're reflecting me in their audience, and that's all I want to see, basically. So I think celebrity are really good at it. Like you've got your big dogs as well, Apple, Nike. I mean, not that celebrity aren't a big dog, because they obviously are, but Apple, Nike, Lego, they all do it really well. And like Target, who probably don't do it so well, who again have backed away from Pride because of backlash.
For me, it's about inclusivity and making it normal for the next generation to talk about this and not feeling like there's any difference as well. It's therefore really important that we do show these campaigns that, you know, it's got to be how it is, that there is no other way, right? And so that's why I think it's so important for the people that are coming into this industry almost see it as the new norm. It
shouldn't be seen as a campaign. It should just be part of everything, like you said. So I think it's dangerous to get it wrong.
Because one of the stats that I didn't read out was a third of people had said they don't feel their perspective is listened to when planning for Pride. So if you're going to engage with this community, you want to be part of it, go and ask them where they're looking for support, how they're expecting to see this coming through. You know, we always say, go back to insight, go back to what consumers are wanting and asking for. And if you're really not sure, get some qualified insights to tell you that.
I think it's good timing. I've got my BoFand t-shirt on here, which is a really great non-binary fashion brand that obviously do it right all year. So that was well timed and not a thought
decision. Or...
it wasn't unconscious.
Unconscious bias.
I think, you know, it's really hard when you see a logo and then you go and look at that brand and, you know, like for me, if they don't have the MX option as a prefix, like what are you doing then? Like, and people will research. So
we're not saying no. We do think people should be supporting it. Pride is a good month to raise awareness as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't talked about the fact that when you've got a topic, same as Awareness Day, they are a great amplification of the message. So we're not saying don't do it. We're just saying don't just do it. Do it as part of I've come up with a new slogan.
I know, I just think it's like, a new Nike slogan there. Don't just do it.
Just do it. So do it as part of your marketing campaign. Integrate it into everything you do and do it really authentically. They are our key takeaways. For our view, lots of people will have loads of different views. You've seen from the stats, it's really divided out there. So certainly not trying to be conclusive on it. We could probably debate that for ages as well.
So let's move on to MADFest. And actually, I think the bigger conversation here is gritty problems, right, Fee?
Yes. So MADFest is an event we supported last year. We are very happy to be supporting it again this year. So it's the 2nd to the 4th of July. I'm speaking at MADFest. They asked me what I would like to speak about, and I wanted to speak about something we're really passionate about here, which is gritty problems. So we always say to clients, whenever you give us a brief, is we want to solve a gritty problem. The whole point of this is we are trying to get to a consistent focus on a single-minded objective, Because the problem is, if you can't be clear on what your gritty problem is, what are you trying to solve, it's really hard to know if what you're doing is right. So we're trying to put almost like a ruthless focus to allow your brand to make leaps rather than tiny little steps forward. And that's what focusing on the gritty problem makes you do.
Yeah.
And from doing that, we'll then go on to do lots of insight work to look at the hypothesis for what's causing the gritty problem or what's going to solve the gritty problem and all that stuff. So I am looking for people, if you're a brand or a client, and you don't have to be named, you don't have to have your brand named, but if you've got a gritty problem that you would like to be debated, solved, thoughts on within the forum that is MADFest, then we would love to hear what that might be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for those of you who don't know what MADFest is, it's basically a 3-day festival style advertising, marketing sort of brand event. They've got fantastic speakers, so it's definitely worth coming down. Fee, you're speaking on the 3rd, the Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm speaking on Wednesday the 3rd. I'm on the female leaders stage. I'm following on from Netflix, so if you don't want to come
I mean, they've got a tough opening session there, haven't they, to open up for you, so hopefully they'll be all right.
So if you don't want to hear from me, come and listen to Netflix. We saw some brilliant people last year. There's some real standouts. Tom Kerridge was absolutely one of my highlights from last year's MADFest. He spoke so authentically. He gave us a real insight into how he'd grown his business, like how the restaurant industry was struggling, how he came up with innovation. It just felt really genuinely open and honest. And he was probably one of my favourite speakers from across the few days.
Yeah, and then that's where we started to learn a bit about women in sport as well, the trust, and we met some of the team there, so it was really interesting to see the brand opportunities within women's sports and how the team shared that new report they'd just done. Yeah, there were some great like futurologist ones, pet care ones, future of pet care. So that's really exciting. If you've got a gritty problem that you're facing, and actually I think we'd like to talk about those a bit more in our podcast moving forward anyway, because they're key to brand champions. So anything like that, just sort of share it on LinkedIn or drop us a DM or drop us an email, and we'll start to talk about those at contact@thebrandchampions.com, and we'll start to bring those into these sessions as well.
So let's talk about last week's Friday ad, because we were both on holiday, so we didn't talk about this last week. And so we are talking about the ad that is advertising the Paris Paralympics. And having now seen it, I think we were both like, wow, this is a really powerful, it really kind of gives you that jolt and that shock factor, because it starts off as such as kind of sweet animation. You know, you've done a bit of research into this, so tell me more about it.
Yes, this is done by, I think it's the IPC it's called. We'll correct that if I'm wrong. So it's a 100 Days to Go campaign done by Adam and Eve. The piece of music I have always thought from my childhood was from like a Rupert the Bear programme. I don't know why. But actually it's a well-known Paul McCartney song. So ignore my ignorance. I apologise for everyone out there. And the video itself, the music video, is what I've always had in my head as a child. So it's like these little frogs, and it's a really famous animation. And I think that's why they've encapsulated that kind of animated feel for the advert itself. So they start off with animation, and then, like you say, it jolts you into that Paralympians are competitive.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's not like the animation bit is all like, oh yeah, soft and fluffy, we're just here to be involved, thanks for including us. It's none of that rubbish. Like everyone is competitive. So I really love that juxtaposition of the animation, soft, fluffy Paul McCartney song versus the, you know, it literally starts with like somebody getting punched, I think, or kicked, and then all the competitive sort of rowing shots and all of that. So I think it's a great advert, and it does make you think. And I think a lot of people, I know we showed it to somebody in the team, and they were like, oh, I don't get animation when it's real people, but that's the whole point of the animation, right? Because it's not the real anyway. So I thought it's a great kind of smash in the face. Like, it reminds me actually of the World Down Syndrome Day advert that we did as a Friday ad a few weeks ago.
Again, we shouldn't be overplaying it. We should be just part of this group, taking part, you know?
Yeah.
And we've earned our right to be here because we're proper athletes. Like, it's incredible what they're doing.
We really like the World Down Syndrome Day, the Assume That I Can TV ad.
Yeah.
The fact that we've kind of said there's a few there that have been similar, like, that's interesting. So I think that's something for us to watch out in the next kind of trench of ads, you know, whether we continue with that messaging or if that messaging changes. So that'll be interesting to look out for. But I do think it's interesting, like Paralympics itself has only, I think it's 2019, become one of the must show on free TV programmes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only actually in the last kind of 15, 20 years that we've actually seen an increase of coverage. So at one point it was only Europe that was showing Paralympian games on telly. But ever since the Sydney Olympics, it's been huge. So probably not as big as it should be, not watched as it should be. So this is a great kind of look we're on as well.
Gets our vote for sure. So we've talked about Pride. We think yes, if it's for the right reason. We've talked about MADFest and submitting your gritty problems to us. We've talked about last week's Friday ad. If you have, and if you see a amazing Friday ad, we're always looking for people to come and guest write or make suggestions or anything like that. So please do submit to us your ideas. But otherwise, we will see you for next time's BC Mixtape.